Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video on AJ's Thoughts on Movies. Before we get into the review, I do want to give a disclaimer. I'm not going to be bashing on the CGI of this movie a whole lot. There is going to be a little bit of me calling it out. For the most part, I believe that George Lucas had a vision of the story that he wanted to tell. He waited about 20 years to tell it. In 2001, we get to explore the Attack of the Clones with the digital animation that he used and CGI effects that he gets to use. He pushed his animators, he pushed himself. There are moments where it fails and there are moments where it looks really good. But without this movie and without a lot of the stuff that ILM and Lucasfilm did, we wouldn't have films like Avatar, we wouldn't have Avengers Endgame. You know, it's 2001, so let's give him a little bit of a break, okay guys? Alright, now that that little rant is over with, on with the show. Alright, so the movie opens with a big explosion on the landing platform, and the explosion was targeting Senator Amidala, who was previously queen, and Padme thinks that Count Dooku is behind it for some reason, and immediately Sam Jackson shuts her down. Obi-Wan and Anakin are assigned to watch Padme and keep her safe, as they're not soldiers, they're keepers of the peace, but apparently they're also security guards. Little Annie is really sad that Padme isn't a cougar, yet. The bounty hunter sends an assassin to send worms that attack Padme, and that leads us to our first chase scene throughout the streets of Coruscant, or the skies. Obi-Wan and Anakin capture the assassin, only for her to get killed by her boss. Obi-Wan and Anakin go back to the council, and they get their new assignments. Anakin, for some reason, is chosen to watch over Padme and keep security going on her, while Obi-Wan is sent to investigate and track down the bounty hunter. Anakin and Padme then leave to go back to Naboo, because they say that she's safer there. Although, if I remember correctly, they don't have any armies other than the Gungans. So, I don't know why she's safer on Naboo than she is at Coruscant with a whole bunch of Jedi, but... So, Obi-Wan does some investigating and tries to track down whoever made the dart that killed the assassin. Along the way, he gets sassed by everybody in the temple, including a really rude old woman and Master Yoda himself. Then, after a 5-year-old tells him what happens, Obi-Wan goes to Kamino and discovers the cloners. Obi-Wan figures out that there is an army made for the Republic by a unknown Jedi Council member that we never hear from or see. And then Obi-Wan meets the bounty hunter Jango Fett. Jango then mentions that he was recruited by a man named Tyrannus. Pay attention to that, it'll come up later. Later, the Council, meaning Yoda and Mace Windu, ordered the bounty hunter be captured and be brought for questioning. Some pointless explosions later, and we end up in another chase scene, this time in space. Oh, and I forgot to mention that while this is all happening, Anakin and Padme are flirting and reenacting soap operas and making out. Anakin then has a nightmare where his mother dies, so he decides to go to Tatooine and kill some Tusken Raiders. Cut back to Obi-Wan sneaking around Geonosis, where he tracked down the bounty hunter, and we finally get to meet Count Dooku. He tells Obi-Wan that Darth Sidious has taken over the Senate, you know, the truth. But then Obi-Wan says the Jedi would be aware of it and totally disregards the whole thing. The two lovebirds come to Obi-Wan's aid, only to get captured after a big jumbled CGI mess. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are all put in a gladiatorial ring where they're supposed to be executed, but before doing so, Padme decides to confess her love by saying the 5 words that every man wants to hear. I truly, deeply love you. So dumb. Then Sam Jackson shows up with his purple lightsaber. Then all of the Jedi show up and we get a really big battle scene. Then Master Yoda shows up and we get an even bigger battle scene. We chase Count Dooku for a little bit, then we fight Count Dooku, then we fight Count Dooku again, and then we fight Count Dooku again. Anakin and Padme get married, and that's the end of episode 2. Okay, without a doubt, Attack of the Clones is my least favorite Star Wars film. I think it's the weakest acting, it's the weakest effects, it's the weakest story, mostly story though. But that being said, I'm not just going to tear this movie apart. There are some good things about it, so let's get into it. I think Attack of the Clones is really good at showing Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship as Padawan and Master. For instance, I love the elevator scene where they're just kind of joking around and, you know, you can see, you know, them laughing together and they have that good friendship. Anakin says many times that Obi-Wan is the closest thing he has to a father. I think the first 20 minutes of the film are actually pretty good. I like the dialogue that we get on the couch, and it makes me think that Anakin sometimes would rather have Qui-Gon as his master than Obi-Wan. I think Ewan McGregor does a good job at portraying Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think that he really is the same character from Phantom Menace all the way to Return of the Jedi. A lot of people like to rag on Hayden Christensen and his acting and, how he can be a little bit stale at points. For me, I think that's just Anakin in general. I think he's a social, awkward teenager that does act that way. He has no idea how to act around women. He is really powerful and he feels like he's being held back, so there's going to be some whining. But Luke had some whining too, so maybe it's genetic. But I think Hayden Christensen does a good job of showing that darkness in Anakin way back when. There's that scene on Tatooine when they're arriving, and you can just tell that Anakin is really pissed about having to go back to Tatooine. He didn't want to return. He never wanted to go back. He only has bad memories about that place. I also think it's really cool that we as the audience get to go back to Luke's house and Uncle Owen's house as we're going there with Anakin and Padme, and we're seeing Anakin stand in the same place that Luke did. I do think that the sound effect for the seismic charges, while it doesn't make the whole movie, I think it's pretty cool. It's just like silence and then... We've got really good actors like Sam Jackson and Christopher Lee. I think Christopher Lee does an amazing job at playing Count Dooku. I just wish we got a little bit more of it. I wish we got more Dooku in this film. I think that this movie is really remembered for the last 45 minutes where all the Jedi show up and we get this huge battle CGI sequence, and that's what everybody remembers about this film, and that's what I remember about it too. It is really cool to see all the Jedi show up and to see what they can do as an order, not just as a Padawan and a master. This is the first time we get to see them as an army. Mace Windu says at the beginning of the film they're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, but by the end of it, they're pretty much generals. I would have liked if we got to see Master Yoda beat Count Dooku through the Force and not have to pull out a lightsaber, but at the same time, it is really cool to see him jumping around and using the Force to be young again, in a way. Okay, so those are my good things about the film. Here comes my rant, my nitpicks, whatever you want to call it. Buckle up. Like I said, I really like Christopher Lee in this movie. I like Count Dooku as a character, and I wish we got more of him. At the beginning of the film, in the crawl, we see, it's going down, and then we have capital mysterious Count Dooku. And then 3 minutes later, we get Padme mentioning, I think Count Dooku's behind this. And then he's not heard from, seen, or mentioned until an hour and 16 minutes in the film. An hour and 16 minutes, that's the first time we get to see Count Dooku. That's over halfway. At the same time, we don't get to see Darth Sidious until the last 5 minutes of the film. He's not in it at all. We get to see Palpatine, and we get to, go to the Senate and do their hearings and talk of treaties and whatnot. But there really is no Darth Sidious in this film either. The Sith are not present in this movie. We get more bounty hunter than we do actual villains. And that's probably the number one problem I have with this movie, is that there is no antagonist. There is no villain in this movie. We're just going through a mystery of what Obi-Wan finds, and then it's all about Anakin and Padme's love story. Okay, and then can we talk about how the worms that Jango gave to the assassin to kill Padme are somewhat intelligent? That when R2 is scanning the room looking for her, they just know to hide. So that shows that they have some level of intelligence and that they can think creatively. Okay, so a lot of this film is CGI, and I get it. I get why they did it. But at the same time, there are certain moments where if it's too light and there's not enough shadows and everything, it just looks fake. It looks like we're in a video game. One of those moments is Kamino. Almost the entire time we're on Kamino, or at least the inside of it, everything's white. And because of that, everything is lit up and you can see imperfections the whole way through. I don't like that we can tell that Ewan McGregor's just walking in a blue screen with nobody there. Tonwi and Lama Su, they don't look very real. And I know that George Lucas and ILM, they spent a lot of time on these characters, but at the same time, it's not as good as the stuff they did with Phantom Menace with Jar Jar. It's not as good as what they did with Dex in this movie. I feel like the whole time we're on Kamino, we're just kind of going, oh my gosh, when is this over? At least I was. And then kind of going along with the special effects, when Obi-Wan and Django are fighting, you have these scenes of Ewan McGregor just like falling because he's being shot at. And the explosions just look like crap. I feel like almost anyone with Adobe Premiere Pro could do a little bit better at explosions than this. It just doesn't look good at all. Then we have the famous seduction scene with Anakin and Padme. Fun fact, there are costume designers throughout this whole film putting Padme in whatever they want to and making the Jedi look how they look. But George Lucas himself designed the seduction outfit for Padme. You know, that black, almost leash-looking dress? All George. I do think that the fireplace seduction scene, and I'm going to keep calling it that, is the worst acting, the worst dialogue in the film. Okay, and the movie's biggest laugh-out-loud moment is definitely that scene where Padme goes, "I truly, deeply love you." I am like busting a gut every time that scene is playing. It's so bad. Nobody talks like that. And we don't buy it at all. Even Anakin's like, what? So it takes an hour and 16 minutes for Christopher Lee's Count Dooku to show up. How long do you think it takes for Mace Windu to show up with this purple lightsaber and be awesome and everything everybody remembers? An hour and 50 minutes in. Nothing happens in this movie until an hour and 50 minutes in, when we have finally a good action sequence that gets us to wake up a little bit and realize, oh yeah, this is Star Wars. Another fun fact, when we get to the part where the Clone Wars is actually starting, none of that is real. All of it is CGI, except for, you know, Sam Jackson and a few other of the Jedi, but they're standing with CGI characters. The clones, animated. The droids, animated. The background, animated. All animated. CGI, everything. You know that scene where Count Dooku is making that pillar fall on Obi-Wan and Anakin and they're about to die, and so Yoda just gives up trying to catch him and saves their lives? I think Yoda should have taken that and thrown it at Dooku, or thrown it at the ship or something. Like, he didn't have to just like put it behind them. If they wanted to catch Dooku, they totally could have. Personally, I think that was Yoda a little bit like, I don't know, going easy on him because he used to be his Padawan. I don't know, maybe. And so yeah, we're at the very end of the movie, and then we get Darth Sidious to show up, and we find out that he's the one that actually is starting the war. Darth Sidious says, "Welcome home, Lord Tyrannus," and then we go, huh, where have I heard that before? It's a small moment, you can miss it. Overall, I think that all the prequels get a little bit more hate than they deserve. The sequels are far, far worse. I don't even count them as Star Wars, that's why I say this one is the worst. It's the most forgettable until you get to an hour and 50 minutes when Sam Jackson shows up and then we get to fight, and that's what we remember about this film. It doesn't really have an antagonist. It doesn't really know what we're doing other than trying to get Anakin and Padme to fall in love, which they don't really do very well. I like the Jedi. I like the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I like the beginning of Darth Vader's turn. But unfortunately, even as a die-hard Star Wars fan, this movie is kind of hard for me to watch. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video and watched it all the way to the end. If you did, drop a thumbs up down below. Comment below if you have a different opinion and if you think there's anything that I left out. Please check out my other videos on my channel, subscribe, and you'll know exactly when my next video drops. Right now I'm planning to do Phase 2 ranking of the Marvel films. Make sure and hit that little bell down below so you can know exactly when that comes out. Alright, that's all for now guys. See you later.